Hey friends, this video isn't going to be about poi or flow arts, at least not directly. It's also not going to feature the usual friends of the channel or Patreon spots. It's going to be something very, very personal, and I want it to be coming from a place where I'm speaking purely on my behalf and no one else's. If any of the friends or my Patreon supporters want to, they can hop into the comments and voice their support or criticism of what I'm saying. I will be back to doing poi videos soon, I promise, and I'll talk more about that in a little bit more depth later on, but for now there is something that I really need to get off my chest. I have lived in Washington, D.C. for 13 years now. I believe that it is one of the most beautiful cities in the world, and I've traveled to many. It's a city of history and culture, not just of the founding of the United States, but also the vibrant and diverse community that makes up the majority of this city today. And before we go any further, I need you all to understand that this city, my home, was the target of an armed insurrection last week. That to me, this isn't just pictures on the news or a tweet storm. It is a city that I love with all of my heart being defiled and violated. This is personal. I biked past the Capitol building last Saturday while I was ringing in the new year. I go there sometimes to shoot flow videos or to pay my respects to luminaries that are lying in state. This is my home. It is real and it is visceral. There's a real price to pay for what happened on Wednesday, and I am one of many, many people who are currently paying it. I spent 2 days afraid to leave my apartment. I spent Wednesday trying to track down every friend that I thought might be anywhere near Capitol Hill. And when the curfew notification went out, I wondered how long it might last for. And more importantly, I wondered, and have been wondering, what's coming for us next. I do not have the luxury of moving on or forgetting about it, so I'm going to talk about it right now. Now I can imagine there are quite a few of you out there that are going to be sitting back and rolling your eyes and saying, oh great, another artist is taking on issues that are out of their depth. And you know what? Yeah, in a lot of cases that does happen. There's more than a few people I can think of out there who have platforms whom I wish would take a little bit more time to research the things they talk about before they do talk about them. And I'd also like to believe that you don't have to have studied history in great depth to comment on the historicity of this moment, or have worked for a human rights organization to talk about the risks of atrocities. But as it stands, I both have a degree in American history and I worked as an anti-genocide activist for nearly a decade. How about that? So let's first talk about this from a historical perspective, yeah? Because the last time the Capitol building was sacked, that is, it fell to an armed incursion and was looted, it was 1814 and the British were doing the honors. Last Wednesday, not only was it our own citizens tearing down this monument to our democracy, they were doing it wearing t-shirts, praising the Holocaust and waving Confederate flags. They took videos, posed for selfies. Some of them were even wearing the ID badges for the places that they worked at. And you know what? It's impossible not to draw a correlation between them and the many other acts of violent white supremacy that have wound up on camera. These are not accidents. They're not mistakes. The people who've done these things are not ashamed. They share that media specifically because they are proud of it. Because they believe that their whiteness and the privilege that they enjoy as a result of it is the ultimate aspiration and the ultimate expression of their hollow and fragile perception of their own superiority. They don't worry about consequences because, hey, when you're at the top of the food chain, there aren't any, right? And let's be real. They have that perception because we reinforce it as individuals and as a culture. We reinforce it when we swear that we don't see color, gender, or sexual orientation, that we're all just people. We reinforce it when we draw moral equivalencies between the actions of the oppressed and their oppressors. We reinforce it every time a police officer murders a black person and we pass around whatever reason they've conjured up after the fact to justify lynching. And we also reinforce it when, after the first and only time in American history, when the President of the United States has incited a coup attempt in a bid to hold on to power, we say it's time for reconciliation and healing. The message time after time is clear. You can get away with this because confronting it makes us all feel uncomfortable. When we shield those who perpetrate these crimes from the consequences of their actions, we heal nothing. We demand those who've been hurt to accommodate our own feelings of comfort. We demand that other people make room so that we don't have to ask ourselves any hard questions. And that isn't healing, it's gaslighting. If you take literally nothing else away from this video, I want you to take this. If you are cis, hetero, white, male, and goodness, especially if you're all four like me, it is your job. It is our job to be uncomfortable right now. It is our job to make our peace with spaces that haven't been created with us in mind. It is our job to seek out resources and friends that can help us do the work. Because I guarantee you that we have friends who've been sitting in their discomfort daily for years now, and it is our job to accommodate them for a change. But why is he suddenly getting political, you may ask? Well, first up, if indeed you are asking that question, then it is a sign that I have been complicit in the campaign to malign human rights and enable radical nationalism, to dismiss resisting these forces as politics. I am sorry, and it is time for me to do better, because I think that I have done a disservice by not talking about them more, both to myself as well as my audience. When artists and entertainers such as myself do not talk about things like this, it helps insulate all of you out there watching. It allows you to wrap yourselves up in a comfortable bubble and say, I'm justified in ignoring this thing. It is my responsibility as an artist, as an ambassador of flow arts culture, and someone with access to so many households to break down those barriers of comfort, to confront people with their own complacency and make clear that human rights are not opinions or politics, but the bedrock of being a compassionate human being. So, where do we go from here? Well, I'll be real with you. I have spent the last few days afraid to not be angry for even 1 second. Worried that if those feelings of fear, anger, and deep violation faded for even one moment, then I was betraying my friends and myself. That I was letting the people who'd hurt myself and so many other people off the hook. And then last night I attended an online event, and I had a moment where I felt real joy for the first time in a while. It felt so foreign that I almost didn't recognize it. And I kind of had a breakthrough. And I realized that we can have both. This was actually a bit of a reminder of how important my job as an artist really is. Not only is it my job to call out the complacency of people in the face of injustice, it is also my job to create spaces for the victims of that injustice, to be able to still find joy when they're under assault. So, we'll be back to poi and flow videos later on in the week. But you can also be damn sure that I'm going to spend more time talking about things that are important to me, and that I believe should be important to everyone. Joy in the face of oppression is 100% a revolutionary act. Art is and always has had this purpose. And at the same time, I don't want to have to create a space for the people who invaded my city, my home, to feel more comfortable and escape what they've done. I don't have to give them something fun to do while they wait to see if they're going to pop up on the latest FBI wanted list. And you know what? If you're among those that assaulted the Capitol, that violated the city that I call home, do me a favor and unsubscribe now, because this is not a space for you. We'll be happy to have you back if and when you're ready to become a real human being with empathy, humility, and kindness. In the meantime, we do not want you, and we surely do not need you. And if you are ready to do some of that work, there are some links to some resources down in the description. Welcome to the conversation. And to everyone, thank you for listening.